Hello and welcome to today's event. We're kicking off our two-day military series called Passive Income Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Catherine Kostreva. I'm one of the co-founders of Meritorious, and we are a national all-in-one platform delivering the network, resources, and tools so veteran and military spouse business leaders can leverage the bonds of service to connect, grow, and lead. Meritorious offers a centralized member portal, networking events, professional and business development, and communities. I wanted to introduce one by one our guests for today's panel. So first up is Bill Militello. He's the founder and CEO of both Militello Capital and Localvest. Bill graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis. He served as a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps as a signals intelligence officer. In 2001, he moved to Wall Street right here in New York City, where he was an equity trader for Knight Capital Markets, followed by a consultant gig for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. He founded Piedmont Investment Advisors, then he founded Militello Capital. And then later he founded Localvest, which is a SaaS platform to help military veteran entrepreneurs raise capital faster. So please join me in welcoming Bill. You can reveal yourself at any moment.
All right, I am revealed.
Welcome. Hello. Okay.
Hi, Catherine.
A pleasure. Okay, so next we have Buddy Rushing. He's also a badass Marine. He is the CEO of White Feather Investments, and he happens to be active duty, which is all the more impressive. So he's CEO of a company that's a real estate investment organization with a mission to educate and empower military members to achieve financial freedom through their real estate investing. So you'll hear from him today. I've had the pleasure of connecting with him, and this mission is really true to heart. I think it will resonate with many of you. And over the past 10 years, Buddy and his team flipped houses, they wholesaled, they invested in trust deeds, they structured seller finance transactions using Roth IRA funds. He's purchased an apartment complex, he's executed multiple 1031 exchanges, and more. There's a lot you're going to learn from Buddy today. And finally, I'm extremely pleased to welcome John Rubino. He's a U.S. Navy veteran and COO and founder of JID Investments, which you'll hear from time to time referred to as JIDI. He is a graduate of SUNY Maritime College with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. He has a third mate's license in the U.S. Merchant Marine and a commission as a U.S. Naval officer. He served honorably as a naval aviator for 20 years. Thank you, John. Since inception in 2013, JIDI has invested over $22.4 million on 16 completed and 7 currently executing projects with over $18 million in proceeds. JIDI currently has over nearly $16 million invested and or committed on its current projects. Maybe some of those numbers are wrong. You can let us know, John. But it is my pleasure to formally introduce this entire panel. Again, our fabulous moderator is Bill. So I'm going to depart. I'll be back for the audience Q&A. Folks, please be chatty. If you like something, there's a little smiley face at the bottom, and you can just tell everybody how much you love this panel. And you can clap and do all kinds of good things. So, all right, take it away, Bill. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity and for setting this up. And thanks to everybody who's joining us today. This is fabulous. I love this platform, by the way. I'm so zoomed out, and now we're having a lot of fun with Air Meet. So no affiliation, but just thought I'd give a shout out to Air Meet. This is a cool platform, right, guys?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I just emojied you twice.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep my hands off the keyboard so I don't exit this. But anyway, let's get down to business. People came here to meet some really cool veterans that are in the real estate space. John Rubino, it's great to see you, and of course my new friend Buddy Rushing, who we had the opportunity to meet a few in person for the first time a few weeks ago down here in Florida. First question is to you, Buddy. So why did you start White Feather Investments?
So, as any body will probably tell you, you start with one idea and then 10 years later you look at it and it's probably completely changed, or at least it was for me. I never thought about investing in real estate ever, didn't think about investing at all. I mean, I grew up on WIC and food stamps in East Tennessee, right? It wasn't, even in the cards for me. I was get a job and try to pay the bills, right? And then I got accepted to the Naval Academy, literally squeaked in at the last minute. I actually got rejected first and then got accepted when somebody else didn't accept their appointment to the Naval Academy. No kidding, true story. So I squeaked in, and then 4 years later, you would have thought that I would know everything there is to know about building wealth and finances at such a great institution, but that's not the case at all. I took my second class loan and I blew it on partying and booze, and I put a down payment on a car and got a 16.9% interest on West Street, right, from the Toyota there, right? And so you guys both went to the academy, right? Naval Academy, right? Yeah, so you know what West Street, like the little Toyota there. I got a 16.9% interest loan, and that car eventually got repossessed when I went to Afghanistan. I gave it to my brother to make payments on it. Didn't make any payments. It got repoed. That was my, and it wasn't because I was dumb, right? It was because I didn't have any exposure, and I also didn't believe that I could even have that it was even in the cards for me, because when you grow up poor, you don't think like that. Like building wealth, especially generational wealth when you're poor, is as foreign a concept as going to the moon. You just don't think about it. But then on my first deployment to Afghanistan, I was on an armored convoy, and it was long. If you've been on armored convoys, you know how long they can be. And I looked between the seats and I found this little purple paperback book. It was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read it, and I had two thoughts at the end of it. I read it in one sitting, just blazed through it, because it's a very short, simple book. And I had two thoughts.
It's written for Marines by a Marine. Right?
Now you know, right? You know what I'm about to say. I had two thoughts. I said, number one, this is a terribly written book. Like, oh my God, this guy's definitely a Marine. Right? And number two, it has the most powerful nuggets of wisdom I've ever heard in my life. And I'm not kidding. From that moment on, I believed that I could, even though I grew up, this half Mexican kid who grew up in poverty in Tennessee, that I could have whatever I wanted. I could build whatever I wanted in America just by doing these things and by working really hard. And that belief is what really started White Feather. That's what started. And it started out as this idea of let's change the legacy of the Rushing family, because it's been poor since, we can even remember it, with all of the attendant negative things that come with being poor, all of the abuses, all of the, substance abuse, all of the everything. And so I wanted to break that cycle in my family. That was where it started. And so for 10 years, we did all of it. My wife and I did all of the different things we could do. We wholesale, trust deed lending, so forth and so on. And I had a career, full-on career, deployed to Afghanistan several times during that time. But one thing that I noticed was every time my Marines would come to me and they tell me about, oh, sir, I'm dropping my EAS paperwork and, I'm getting out. And we would talk about their plan. And then because of social media, we would stay engaged, and I would see tons of them, a huge percentage of them would get out and, for lack of a better term, fall to pieces. And after a long, heartbreaking time of just examining this, I realized that the main reason was because these people who were just gods on the battlefield, and I have specific examples in my head right now of people who were just tremendous in Afghanistan, who just completely unraveled when they got out. And it was because they had purpose, and they had a community, and they had a steady income, and they had a sense of, dignity and responsibility and mission, right? All of that stuff evaporates immediately the second you take off the uniform. Your income stops. You're not even allowed on base anymore, really, right? No one, even if you go to your work, try going to your work the day after you retire or get out of the military. Try going into your place of work where you worked the day before and see what happens. People are generally nice, but they're like, what are you doing here, man? And so you lose all of that instantly. And a lot of people don't know how to cope. And so they turn to what we all coped with in the Marine Corps, which is typically drinking, right? And that tends to cause all kinds of problems. So what we said was, what we want White Feather to be is more than just creating income, right? It has to be a community where people can come and find a renewed sense of purpose. And that renewed sense of purpose can be about creating financial freedom, but ultimately so you can live life on your own terms. And really what it comes down to is being able to chase the American dream that you fight for, right? We all go out there and we fight for this idea of the American dream, but look at
if anybody deserves the American dream, are the people that actually fought for it, right?
Or a shot at it, right? Think about your Marines, both you guys. Think about your Marines and your sailors and all that. And are they really living the American dream? Most of them aren't, right? They want to, they should, they deserve a chance at it, but most of them aren't. And so in White Feather now, especially in the last 4 years, because of that community, we've seen just explosive growth. And it's not even, yeah, there's been hundreds of millions of dollars of acquisitions and all this different stuff, but that's not the important part. The important part is the people that have come alive with a renewed sense of purpose. And that's an amazing thing. So that ultimately is what White Feather's about now.
Yeah,
Different than how it started.
I love the platform, man. I love the platform of White Feather, buddy. I love it. It's like a ministry. I mean, but I really like the educational aspect, and it's just been a pleasure to watch your success. And to John, we haven't gotten a chance to know each other that well, but our few interactions have been just tremendous. Took a look at some of the things you've been doing. Tell us about JIDI, or however you'd like me to refer to it. JID, JIDI.
JID's fine. Yeah. You know, my wife gets the full credit of coming up with that name. We had a couple of partners who are all pilots. You know, us pilots, we like to hang out in the war room, and you know, beer resonates well, like Buddy said. So we kind of had these ideas, and we put that name together, JID. It stood for 2 Johns, and Ian, and 2 Davids. So that's how we came.
That's awesome.
My wife gets all the credit.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so my wife gets all the credit. She gets a 10% royalty on there. No, great story, buddy. I mean, look, you set the bar pretty high there, but I'm a kid from Brooklyn, New York. Went to college, got my wings of gold in '99 out of Corpus Christi, Texas. You can see the beast behind me. I flew the P-3 Orion for 20 years. I did some instructional time down in Corpus Christi, Texas, coming from Brooklyn, New York, and going to Corpus Christi, where you're doing 110 miles an hour. And then in Corpus, it's about 10 miles an hour on a good day. But we had fun down there and taught kids how to fly. And I guess I got into real estate back in 2004, 2005. I was stationed in Patuxent River, Maryland. Again, you know, as an aviator, you know, you got a lot of good tight friends, and in the military, you know, you meet so many great, wonderful people. And that's how it started. My dream of real estate started with some guys that I knew that were doing it, got me hooked on it. And we started doing some stuff together actively in 2004, 2005, good timing before the recession hit, the Great Recession. We bought a few new construction homes. We hooked up with a local area builder, and I bought my first property for all in $285K, and I sold it 2 months later for $370,000. And I said, wow, okay, I like this.
This is easy. Why isn't everybody doing it, right?
Why is everybody doing this? This is awesome. And then I went overseas for my next.
By the way, right, just for the audience, you're joking when we say that, right? Because those moments in time, those windows in time, are very few and far between. So we're only joking when we say that. But go ahead, John.
Joking. Those were the easy years. It got a lot harder. I went overseas to Naples, Italy for 3 years. I worked at Navior, and I took a good chunk of money I made, you know, when I started, and I gave it to some of those guys that I knew and that were doing it actively. They got out and they started. What I mean by actively is they were going out and buying property. They were doing condo conversions, multifamily, syndication, purchase, you know, all these funny words that everybody will learn about. And I invested with them passively. And I did it for 7 years. I got a 10% return on my money. But the education was, immeasurable. I learned so much about looking at things, budgets, pro formas, data, demographics, markets. I was learning so much, and I was getting a 10% a year return on my money. So fast forward to 2012, I got orders back to the Pentagon for my last 5 years in the Navy. I knew I was going to be getting out. And what I envisioned for myself was, hey, do I want to work as a government contractor? I respect that and do well, or do I want to try to venture out and be an entrepreneur? And I decided to take door number 2.
Well, I think it's in your blood. I think everybody from Brooklyn, New York, is an entrepreneur at heart. So I don't think you had a choice.
We are. Yeah, I did it. My dad was in construction for 40 years. He was a Marine. So yeah, I didn't have a choice. But, you know, it's interesting because, as we all know, when you're in the military, I think several folks resonate to become entrepreneurs and business owners. I think that we kind of feel like, you know, hey, we want to try it. We want to run a business. And the military has great programs out there, Boots to Business. There's so many good programs to get military transitionees out into the workplace to run their own companies. So I respect that. But I started JID in 2012. with my accountant at the time, who's now my business partner. And we put together over a full year all of the information on the company and how we wanted to do it. And it's a really easy roadmap. We basically have investors in the business who are passive that we go to and work with us, and we call them our family of investors. And we partner with active sponsors in real estate, guys that are out doing the operations and management and the day-to-day operations of the project. And we bring
John,
the two
you're probably
together.
going to probably answer my question, but just to frame it for people, because we're going to get into some red meat right now, because that's what people want. They want to get right into the brass tacks. So tell us, you're about to explain, I think, syndication. What is it? Why get involved? Why do it? So go for it.
Yeah, so syndication really is the ability to bring the money to the deal, and bringing the money to the deal where you have people who have the money and the deal who needs the money, and you're bringing them together. It's kind of like the art of the deal. You're bringing the two together so that you're getting the sponsor, who's the person running the project, purchasing the property, dealing with the operations and management, taking on a lot of the risk. And as a passive investor, you're bringing in the capital, and in turn, you're getting a return on your money. But you're not taking on a lot of the liability, the recourse,
or the management. It's very passive, right? The active stuff is done by the person seeking the capital,
right?
By the sponsor.
And so direct syndication is when the sponsor goes out and raises the money for their projects. What we do is we identify the sponsor. We build that strategic partnership and relationship, and then we partner with the sponsor to then help bring in the capital through our accredited investors who come on board and join us, and who are everyday folks that are business owners, government contractors, doctors, military veterans who want to invest in real estate passively, but they don't really have a lot of the time, or they don't have a lot of the resources to go out there and do it on their own, nor do they want to deal with the risk. And that's kind of what we do. We're that facilitator or that liaison. So we've been doing it, Bill, for 8 years. You know, Catherine read off our statute. We've done very well. And the model is wonderful because, again, people are involved passively and they get the opportunity to be real estate investors. But at the same time, they're not dealing with the headaches that the day-to-day operators deal with.
So that's a really unique model. I like it a lot. And so a quick softball before I turn back to Buddy. What do you see, John? What are you seeing in this market? Is this, with all that's going on in the world, is this really the right time to invest in real estate?
Bill, I'll say that there's always the right time to invest in real estate. It's just a matter of where you're at, who you're working with, where your locations are. I mean, I can go into my kind of detailed list of what I look at, but at the end of the day, real estate is always going to be a strong investment, regardless of when it is. There's periods that you want to shift your focus on a certain type of investment in real estate, which we call, an asset class. There's certain asset classes you want to focus on during ups and downs. We just went through a pretty tough period with COVID, but multifamily residential real estate did phenomenal and actually outperformed pre-COVID. So go figure, in certain markets. So it really just depends. We got through COVID. We're actually doing very well, but now the next challenge is material costs, lumber, supply chain. So there's always a challenge, a new administration, new legislation. So, there's that point you made that this is not all easy. It's challenging, but no, I mean, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared. And I will say, Buddy hit the nail on the head. Robert Kiyosaki, he's my top 3. Amazing. And yes, I love that he's a Marine and he's a helicopter pilot. So, but I play cash flow 101 with my boys. And
I was just going to say that. I remember sitting down at these were the date nights. My wife and I and another classmate of mine from Navy and his wife, we'd sit in their townhouse. That's the dorks we were, right? We would sit there. That was date night on a Friday night, was to play the board game Cash Flow 15 years ago.
Awesome.
So, awesome. But I love it, John. Hey, Buddy, so from your perspective, what's your take on real estate with all that's going on in the world? And, you've got a unique perspective. You're all the way over on the other coast, right? We've got a DC, Northern Virginia guy. I'm down here in South Florida. Things are blowing up. They're going bonkers. How things going out in Southern California?
Well,
and what's your broader take on real estate as an investment right now?
So we do a lot of investments here in Southern California, but we had to shift the model, right? I used to say, if you'd have asked me 3 years ago, I would have said Southern California real estate doesn't pencil. Rental real estate. Southern California rental real estate doesn't pencil. I said that over and over again on numerous podcasts, and I feel like an idiot now because I was just not looking at it the right way. We're crushing short-term rentals right now. Absolutely crushing them. And they pencil like crazy because you can 3-4x your returns when you run them as a short-term rental. Now there's legislation and different things to navigate, and there's TOT, occupancy taxes and blah, blah, blah. But the long story short is our main model out here is running short and medium-term rentals here in California. But bear in mind, Bill, we do most of our investing in the Midwest. And of course, I'm buying all those properties in Florida now. And, we're investing in syndications in Jacksonville and things like that. And by the way, John, love me some syndications, right? So we'll talk because I love single family. I love small multifamily. I love short-term rentals, and I love syndications, right? Because all present a different opportunity.
Yep.
But here's the real question you asked. Is it a good time to invest in real estate right now? I'll first agree with John that it's always a good time to invest in the right type of real estate with the right strategy. But I'll add another layer to it. And this is Buddy's personal opinion. Take it, ball it up, throw it away if you don't agree with it. I think that we are facing a greater opportunity for investment right now than we were in 2008 and 2009. So when you sit around the fire pit and you're drinking a beer with your buddies and you're like, man, if only I had known in 2008, 2009 what an opportunity it was, I would have invested and I'd be rich now. Here is your wake-up call. We are in a greater opportunity, in my opinion, right now for a bunch of reasons. Number one, there is shockingly low inventory because the builders stopped building after 2008 crash. So we have record low inventory levels, which means there's a disparity between supply and demand. We also have a surge in demand because of low interest rates and because there was a spike about 30 years ago of population. I didn't know if you knew this. So now we have a bunch of 30-year-olds that are looking for houses. And I read an article literally before this call talking about how the new construction rental real estate is the big play that a lot of hedge funds and a lot of the more institutional builders are making. So you also have flight from the cities because of the pandemic that are pushing people into the suburbs and getting them into rental real estate. And lots more that I won't go into. We go over all of this stuff in my accelerator. But the point is that plus $7 trillion and more to come of money that's been injected into our economy that has to come out in the form of something. And I'm just a Marine, but I think it's going to be inflation because we're already seeing it, right? When inflation hits, fixed assets, especially leveraged rental real estate, is a triple inflation hedge. When your dollar goes down in value, the cost of your house goes up. The cost of the rent typically goes up, but the cost of your debt stays the same, right? Your mortgage payment stays the same, regardless of what the dollar's worth. So if the dollar's worth half of what it was, my mortgage payment has half the teeth it did. But now my investment is worth more. And, the velocity of money, Bill, you talk about this, the velocity of money, right? That has to do as well with, how powerful fixed assets appreciate. So when you boil it all together, in my opinion, when you buy fixed rental real estate and you leverage it at the low interest rates right now, you are giving yourself a triple inflation hedge and you're getting ready to ride that wave of the disparity between supply and demand plus inflation over the next 5 years. I think that there's going to be a wealth building opportunity unlike anything that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
I call it the perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm, John. I agree with you. It's a perfect storm.
Well said, buddy. John, so if somebody wants to understand real estate better, they want to prepare to invest in real estate, where do they start? How do you get them? What's the suggestion? What's the course of action for somebody to just get the ball rolling?
Yeah, Bill, it's a great question. I mean, I know the internet was really just kind of taken to fruition in the early 2000s, but what we have available for us now on the internet and resources. I mean, you can go online, you can listen to podcasts on biggerpockets.com. You can pull a book off the internet and read it at your own pace. You can listen to Joe Fairless and Whitney Sewell and all these folks that are out there that are doing it day to day. And then you can go to your local market, find a local real estate investment group on meetup.com, or you could just find a business that you're interested in that's doing it and asking, hey, can I just learn from you? Can I join you? Can I intern with you? And believe me, 99.9% of the people in that situation would love to have someone come join them and teach them and show them. But I know I would. So I think, when you're starting out, I always tell folks, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be a real estate investor. Okay, that's great. That's like saying that you want to be, you want to own the state of California. Wonderful. Well, where do you want to go? Do you want to be in San Diego, Coronado Beach? So you got to come up with a specific after you decide you want to do it. And you have to be willing to take risk, understand what the demands are, the time it's going to take, and you have to put in the effort. You have to put the effort in and understand. So I went down the syndication path because I love people. I love to talk to people. I feel I have something special that I want to share with other people. That's why I stood up JID. It was because I loved what I did passively for 7 years, and I had wonderful people that I worked with. So why wouldn't I want to share that, with people that I know, that people I'm family with, that I have as far as friends in the military? I want to share that. So I would say, and then I would also say, and Meritorious is a great place to do it, get yourself mentors. Get yourself people that have been through the war and got back and can tell you all the pitfalls, where to stay away from, what you need to learn. Yeah. Hey, do you know what compliance is? Go ahead.
No, please. It sounds like, be a sponge, and I'll echo, since we're probably, I got out in 97 after 5 years in the service, in the Marines. And I can remember, this is pre-YouTube and all these online meetups and these resources. So I say this a lot. I'm like jealous of people who are coming out now because of all the free resources that exist out there.
Absolutely.
You can learn everything you need to know on YouTube, for goodness sakes. But certainly seek out learning opportunities, mentors like yourself, mentors on Meritorious, other groups. But in terms of like formal education or formal education, what maybe this is for Buddy, how would you answer that? Somebody wants to go through a curriculum.
Yeah, so there's lots and lots of courses that are out there. And I can only ever speak with authority from my own personal experience. I started out after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I clicked on one of those little links online that basically say, hey, join this free webinar. So I joined the free webinar. I thought it was great. And that free webinar takes you to a link to go to a 3-day seminar. So I went to the 3-day seminar. It cost me $300, and I thought the information was fantastic. It was wonderful. At the end of the 3-day seminar, they said, hey, here's an opportunity to join this year-long mentorship program, and it costs anywhere from $15,000 to $40,000. And so I said, okay, I believe. I pushed the I believe button. I believe in myself. I believe in this opportunity. I don't have the money, but how do I do this? And they said, well, you can put it on credit cards. I swear to God, this happened. I said, you can put it on credit. They said you can put it on credit cards. I was like, okay, so I need a couple of credit cards to do that. It's a lot of money. By the way, I'm deploying to Afghanistan again in 3 months. Well, I have the ability, based off of what you've told me, to make this 30 grand back in 3 months. And I swear to you, Bill, they said yes. I swear to you, they had the nerve to tell me yes. Now, you guys are successful investors. What is the likelihood of anybody making 30 grand in their first 3 months of being a real estate investor? Pretty darn low.
Pretty low. More in lines of losing 30 grand in their first 3 months.
More in lines of losing, right? Nevertheless, I put the 30 grand in, and what I will say is the course information was great, but they overpromised and there was no action component. And so what I would tell you guys is be careful with paying a lot of money. And by a lot of money, I mean anything over about 15 grand or 20 grand. Like, that's a lot of money for a course. You really don't need it. Like John was saying, Bigger Pockets, listen to podcasts, read the blogs on Bigger Pockets. That's a good place to start. Get yourself educated by reading a few books and listening to some podcasts first. But if you want to do a set curriculum, just make sure that it is focused on what you want to do, i.e., if I wanted to learn about syndications, I wouldn't take a course that was based on wholesaling. If I wanted to learn about wholesaling, I wouldn't learn all this stuff about syndication because they're two different things. So understand what you want to do, and then get yourself linked in with a group of people that you can trust and that are action-oriented. Understand, there is I say it this way, there is education, there is action. Education is your right leg, action is your left leg. If you just educate, it means you're just moving your right leg and you're just going to turn around in circles, right? Same thing with action. If you take action without education, you're just going to spin in circles and probably go down in flames. You have to do one, then the other, then one, then the other in order to move forward, right? So make sure that any education you do has an action component that's focused on giving you results. That's what I would say.
That's great, buddy. And so it sounds a lot about, education, certainly, and then taking action. And I think that members of the military have no problem with taking action. Maybe we're a little too much, I'll say I was a little too much ready, shoot, aim. But that's okay. You learn from that as well. John, tell us about now that, we're starting to get educated, we're taking action, what are the risks in the market as both an active investor and a passive investor? You started as passive, then you went active and syndicated deals. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing as the risk in those two roles.
Yeah, other way around. I started active. I'm passive now, but yeah, active. Okay. I would say take a legal pad and you draw a line and you put the risks and pros and cons. On the active side, you're like a DIWIA, Defense Acquisition Workforce Improvement Act program manager, where you take the program from cradle to grave. I know some people are getting shivers when I say that. You're the acquisition guy, you're the program manager, you are the go-to person from taking it from start to finish, right? So every phase of the acquisition process, you are the man, you're the woman to run that program. And if anything happens, you are responsible. And so there's a lot of risk there. And so one of the things you have to look at is, how do I get the banks to help me on a lot of my projects, right? We call that leveraged debt, right? How do I go out and get debt from my projects? Well, if you're going to go out and borrow, let's say $10 million from the bank, and you can do that, you have to personally guarantee that. So what happens if something happens to your project? The bank doesn't care. They want their $10 million back, and they want their interest. So are you willing to personally sign, personally guarantee, take on what we call recourse debt or recourse on the property, on that money, or not? If you don't, then guess what? It's probably not smart to be an active piece. If you don't have the time to be able to spend, and what I mean by time, I'm not saying 5-6 hours a day. I mean like 12 to 15 to 18 hours a day, especially as you're starting on managing and actively being on top of these projects to oversee the operations and management. Active is probably a high risk for you then. So, you have to see what makes the most sense. Active wise, it's got to be your full-time job. And there's going to be, just like in the military, you get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning and you got a tenant that has damage to their plumbing lines. You have to take care of that. Passive, but now the benefits of being active is, obviously the project makes it through and you do successfully, you get a nice big chunk of money at the end there, and you're happy, right? I mean, and I'm not just talking 4, 5, 6 figures. I'm talking like 7 figures, nice 7 figures, maybe more. So a lot of work there, but if that's the route you want to go, that's the route you go. If you want to go passive, again, lot more hands off. The real risk for passive investors is that your money's at risk. So then the question you have to ask yourself is, well, how do I protect my money? How do I make sure that this sponsor or this syndication company like us is going to protect my money? That's the real risk as a passive investor, is that you could lose all your money. Will the bank come after you? Nope. Will you have any liability outside of being part of the partnership there that your money's involved in? Nope. So that's the big thing. The downside is you don't get to make a lot of the decisions on the project. You don't get to decide whether you want to change design halfway through, or you don't get to make a lot of the big decisions that what we call the sponsor, the general partner, gets to make. So you're less hands-on, right? Less control of the property, but less risk, less liability.
Yeah, well said. So, ultimate wealth creation, make it your job, right? That's active, and it's a lot of risk and potentially a lot of reward. Nothing's guaranteed, but you're definitely on the hook. And then passively, if you want to, your risk is generally limited to the amount that you've invested. And really, I also think about one of the things you touched on is for those people who want to limit their liability, limit their risk or risk of loss, and maybe this goes without saying, but I think it's worth stating. It reminds me of another book, a favorite book of mine, The Richest Man in Babylon. And, there are some tenets in there that every investor should follow. It's really an investing book. So if anybody hasn't read it, read it, or just, you can listen to it on YouTube, right, for free. And somebody will actually, you can listen to it. So, but one of those points is about investing with people who have a lot of experience in that specific area, right? And so if your specialty, your asset class, your specialty in real estate or asset class is office buildings, well, you know what? And you've got a tracker to success in office buildings, then, maybe, you're the guy to, to invest with in office buildings and really mitigate that risk of loss because, hey, you've seen that movie before, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so for me, it's pretty easy. I always have the philosophy when I'm working with a new sponsor is why don't I want to work with them? I got to find a reason why. And if I find one thing that's, a concern to me of why I don't want to work with them, then I don't work with them. So I'm doing everything I can to find out why I don't want to work with them. And if I get through that process, guess what? I'm going to work with them because we've got through it. They've answered all of my questions. And they're a business I want to work with. And you're absolutely right, Bill. If they're an office, commercial office space asset class sponsor and they want to go do mobile home parks, why? You're making money in this asset class. Why are you going in that direction? So we number one and number two in my book, and it always will be. And I would say, please, this is most important if you're going to invest in real estate or in anything is who's the operator? How good are they? What's their expertise? How they perform? Up and down cycle. And number two is where's the location? Like Buddy said, the location is very, very important.
Well, you just narrowed down the list. You're being really tough on guys now, right? You just eliminated a lot of the. Anyway, I'm kidding.
No, you're right.
But you're true. But what you're saying is absolutely true. If you don't get satisfactory answers to all those things, then it's probably time for you to walk as a passive investor.
That's correct.
Appreciate that, John. Buddy, where are you looking? What's interesting in the real estate market today for you? You've got a narrow niche, right? You're a specialty player in real estate. What do you like? What's got your interest?
Yeah, so I do prefer to focus on typically sort of smaller investments. And there's a very specific reason for that. The purpose of White Feather is to help military people create financial freedom. And in doing so, I want them to become investors themselves. And so it's actually really awesome that John and I are on here together because he and I we're both ends of the spectrum, which is perfect because you need both ends of the spectrum, right? So I have the way that our sort of thesis works is if I can help somebody believe that they can become a real estate investor themselves and then help them get the skills and the network that they need to execute, then they will go off and they will not need me anymore. And thus, White Feather continues to grow in its power and influence. And that is the point. The point is the metric that I use that means the most to me is how many people within White Feather have become financially free. Right. And that is, some people that's 10,000 a month passive. Some people that's, 20,000 a month passive. Some people it's just covering their bills. It's whatever it is to them. Then that's what we do. So that's where Educate and Empower comes from. So I decided to focus on them buying single family rentals at the beginning because ultimately the fundamentals of buying a $100,000 house in the Midwest is the same as buying a $900,000 house in Indio. They're the same. I mean, escrow's the same. The digits are just different, right? Now that's a little bit different than buying a 320 unit new construction in Austin, Texas, right? So you need to understand that. But our main focus has always been single family rentals, small multifamily rentals, and so on. However, like John said, you need to flex with the market, right? There is a massive amount of competition in the single family rental market right now. Institutional players, foreign investors, everybody's dumping billions of dollars into single family rentals right now, especially in the suburbs, because they know that's where the path of progress is. And so what we're doing now is we're still buying those, but we're shifting to short-term rentals on the coasts. We're buying properties in Jacksonville. We're buying apartment complexes in Jacksonville and Jacksonville Beach, Florida. As you know, I'm buying 22 new construction houses in Southern Florida, and I'm going to sell those and then rent some of them. I'm buying a 16-unit apartment complex in Louisville, Kentucky. We're doing, and also we're focusing on new construction to rent. Okay, so there is a unique niche that is right. So when you can't find the inventory, make the inventory. And so we're doing new construction to rent projects. And that's kind of where we're focusing. And to be honest with you, I'm also pouring a lot of my money into not John's syndications because I just met him, but we'll talk, right? But syndications. I'm also pouring a lot of money into syndications and into the Academy Income Fund, or because like we as White Feather are pouring a lot of money into the Academy Income Fund because it is a good return, but the flexibility. I'm putting my money into the hopper, right? Into the war chest, and it's getting me a good return. And then when I find opportunities, because as the turbulence happens in the coming months and years, there will be, I mean, as the eviction moratoriums expire, as we come out of the pandemic, and a lot of the turbulence of the pandemic starts to shake itself out, you're going to see opportunities. Right, you absolutely will see more and more opportunities, and you got to be ready to strike on those. So yeah, I've shifted away from my primary business model because the market demands it.
Yeah, that's really great. And full disclosure, what Buddy's referring to as the Academy Income Fund, I am the co-manager of the Academy Income Fund with Brian Witten from Hornet Capital down in Austin, and it's basically a real estate investment fund that lends money to military veteran real estate operators, usually smaller operators who are, doing fix and flips and duplexes and quadplexes and strip malls and things of that nature, right? They come with the dirt, or we help them buy the dirt, and then they build, luxury homes and whatever. So, that's a fund that if you're interested in looking at further is on Localvest. There's a deal tile for Localvest as both an investor or as a borrower. But anyways, now switching back to...
Hey, Bill, sorry, I forgot one last thing if I could.
Yeah.
One of the most powerful things that people in White Feather do is one of the most overlooked investment strategies that all military people have that is wildly, savagely underused, and that's the VA loan. So one of the things we do is we teach VA loan house hacking. Like, I don't know if you know, I'll give you two quick examples. We had one guy who used his VA loan to buy a fourplex in Southern California for $1.3 million, zero down, 2.75% interest. Okay, he's renting out the other 3 units and effectively living for free in Southern California while he builds wealth. Mathematically, the amortization schedule alone with a 3% appreciation, which is baby for Southern California, will make him a millionaire in 10 years. He's a normal dude. He's a lieutenant in the Navy, right? We have another guy. Actually, there's more examples, but I'll give you one more. We have another guy, a husband and wife who were Air Force Academy graduates who went through the most recent accelerator that I taught, and they used their VA loan to buy a 3-plex with an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit in the back. They're doing a short-term rental on the accessory dwelling unit, living in the main house and renting out the 2 others. So they literally, it's a $1.6 million house, zero down, 2.5% interest loan. These are loans that everybody has access to. Anybody on who's military or a veteran has access to these things, and yet less than 13% use it. It's the greatest wealth building leveraging tool, in my opinion, with that the common person has access to, and it's wildly underutilized. So that's one of the things that we teach as well.
Well, that's fantastic. And you answered my last question, which was, how do I access and how do I qualify for these things? And I think specifically to the asset classes you're talking about, single families, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, I think that's where it maxes out with the VA. That's a phenomenal opportunity with the right education in the right market to build wealth for yourself and enter the real estate market. To John, how do I qualify to be an investor as a passive investor in a private placement that, let's say, that you would put together?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Securities Exchange Commission sets the laws, so you need to do a little research. But bottom line is, you have to be an accredited investor. Robert Kiyosaki mentions it in his book that his rich dad and his buddy said you can't invest in these because you don't meet the criteria for an accredited investor. Private placement is very, very strict, and it's only open to a very select group of folks that meet the criteria So like, if you go to Raymond James or Jones or Morgan Stanley, they're going to have you trade publicly, right, with stocks and REITs or real estate investment trusts. But when you do private placement, you can participate in deals that that Buddy's doing or I'm doing, that I'm partnering with, that are outside the scope of the public realm. So you have to be accredited. An accredited investor has to either meet net worth or income levels, and the SEC defines that. I'm happy to explain it, but it's probably good. You could find that on your own, do a little homework, and you could find out whether you qualify or not. For close friends and family, people you know really, really well, the SEC doesn't give you any guidance if someone's not an accredited investor. They call it engagement. But you can talk to people who are sophisticated, who are in your network, who know you, who know your business model, that you engage with, that could come on as non-accredited, but you have to be careful depending on what type of investment it is. And Bill and Buddy, I know you guys know Reg D, 506, B's and C's, but for folks out there, those are the types of SEC filings that I do and that developers do from syndication on how to come in through this from a compliance standpoint. So either you can do those two types, and depending on which two of those you do, you can have a certain number of non-accredited investors if they're inside your company. So very, very important that you understand the compliance and the laws, because that can get you in trouble. Right. Going back to some of the points Buddy brought out, I thought, amazing stuff you mentioned there. Education is really important. So, you got to let people know how you operate. So in our world, on the passive side, you're not going to be an active investor, but at the same time, you're coming in through our investments at a very, very easy access point. It's not a very high barrier of entry. So in our investments, let's say we're raising $3 million of equity for a project. We go to our investors and we raise that at about a $30,000 increment per investment. So it allows you to come in and be an owner on a $3 million equity investment through our business for a specific project, and you can invest as little as $30,000, which is very manageable. You don't have to be the high net worth individual that's cutting the $3 million check. So we like that. And we also want people to come on board and get to know us first before I even have a deal. All right. I want to walk them through our process. I want to explain to them how we work. I want them to come out and walk a project with me and have a hard hat on and a vest to be able to see what we're doing. Meet me across the table, have lunch, talk to us, come on board and become an investor, pay nothing to join us. And then you get to see everything we're doing. And then you get to decide yes or no if you want to invest. So education is really important, and how you set up your process is very important. And we like the way we do it. We enjoy it. And a lot of our investors are very happy.
Great. That's really informative, John. And I'll circle back on compliance in a second. But we're going to take questions in just a minute. But I'm going to squeeze in one lightning round question, 30 seconds or less, Buddy Rushing. And I'm going to ask John you the same question. Give me, if I want to get started investing, trusted resource, trusted agent, who should I go out and seek good counsel information from?
Buddy, I'll give you a second to think about it. But my thought is, Robert lays it out in his book. And I think, don't recreate the wheel. That's my favorite line. I was a Navy officer for 20 years, and I told my guys, don't go out and recreate the wheel. If the wheel's out there, take it, fix it, make it yours, and bring it back. And that's what I tell people is make sure you have a good accountant, a good broker, a good attorney. You want to have a good money manager, someone that can help you. Have these trusted agents that you can go to. When I have a brand new deal that's out, it's an opportunity zone investment. Not a lot of people understand that. I can walk them through that till I'm blue in the face, but I'm not the guy that should be advising them. They should be going out and talking to their broker. They should be talking to their accountant. Why should I do an opportunity zone investment? Why does it make sense for me? It's a fantastic investment. It's probably one of the best ways to avoid paying any taxes. So, we give you the information, but go and get the right people on your team to make sure you can go to talk to. If you do your own taxes, good on you. If you want to become a real estate investor, get yourself a CPA. It's going to get complicated. It's going to get hard when you have multiple limited liability corporations, when you have multiple K1s, when you have multiple 10. It's going to be too hard for you to do it. Go get the right people that can help you, and don't be afraid to spend the money if you have to on things that are going to be better for you from an investment standpoint.
I love that last part, John. Don't be afraid. We're very frugal being military veterans, right? We hold on to a buck like it's the first one we ever earned, than the last one. And that's great. It gets you very far because we're good savers, but don't be afraid to invest in competent counsel. Buddy, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment first. Is one of my mentors told me 10, 12 years ago, don't step over dollars to pick up pennies. And what he meant by that was, dude, don't spend money on frivolous things. Spend money on things that make you better, right? And so what I would say is start with the free resources. Go on biggerpockets.com. I don't get anything from them. This is an endorsement of them because I got a lot out of them. Also, Google your local REIAs, Real Estate Investors Associations, okay? Get plugged into your local REIAs so that you can start networking. That's how I started as well. And then, at the end of the day, I'll put this out there, but please don't swamp me. I put my email in there. Yes, White Feather is all about like educating and empowering people, and we want to help military people. At the same time, there's only a few of us, and there's 500 White Feather members, and so we don't advertise, we don't solicit. It is a personal, like John said, I know everybody in White Feather. I know their first name. I know everybody, and we build it all organically. With that being said, I am willing to help if somebody has a legitimate question of, hey, where do I go or how do I get plugged in? We are happy to network and to plug you into people that we know that have all that, the CPAs, the attorneys, the the people who have access to deals, people who can, partner, people who can bring cash to the table, people who can bring loans to the table. If you want a VA house hack, you want to talk to somebody who's done a VA house hack recently, that kind of thing. There's all kind, and they're all military. So
that's really generous of you, buddy. So Catherine, if you're listening, come back in. And we're going to hopefully we can squeeze in one or two of the best questions that are out there. If not, then you heard it from these guys that they're willing to accept, questions offline. And then we're going to be able to meet around the table as well. So you want to read off
Sure.
a really good question?
We're going to do the lightning round answers because we just have a few more minutes on the clock. So, okay, this one is, are there other funding, lending options available where DTI is not factored into the underwriting process? Who wants to take it? Raise your hand.
I'll tell you, my favorite answer to that question is private capital. And when I say private capital, I mean people who trust you and they trust in your integrity and they trust in your acumen, your business acumen. And I'll give you a specific example. In a recent deal that I did, I needed about $1 million, 900 and change. And I sent out an email to 3 of my friends and I said, hey guys, this is what we need. We're going into this deal. It's a really good deal. Here's some of the specifics. We'll cover all the rest of the specifics later. Because I had spent years developing relationships with them, within about 20 minutes, we had the 900K. And they didn't ask my DTI. They don't even know what my bank account holds. The reason that they agreed to that is because they know that I will go down with the ship before I will lose them money. I will literally go down in flames and sell my personal assets before I let them lose money, and they know that. So yes, there are other resources that, John, maybe you can talk about some of the more institutional ones that go off of the portfolio financing and things like that. But what I will tell you is my favorite is private money that trusts you. Now, there's a high bar for borrowing private money. You got to be willing to drop everything and do everything that you can to fix it if things go wrong. And you got to be super, super conscientious about where you put that private money. Okay, so there's a high bar for that, much higher than borrowing the bank's money. I don't care about the bank's money, right? But I care very much about my friend's money. But that's also the easiest. I've text messaged somebody and had 500,000 wired that day before off of a text message, but it takes years to build those kinds of relationships.
Okay.
I agree 100%. I'll just say that friends and family, they're the easiest people to get the money from, but they're the hardest people to, keep satisfied because you got to keep on top of them. Their blood is thicker than water. So it's easy to get it from them, but they're going to ask you tough questions and you better have the answers, especially if they're family, because you get to see them a lot more.
Okay.
And get prepared to get disinvited from Thanksgiving dinner. Right. If things go wrong. So
my toughest investors are my family.
Yeah.
We have John. There's a quick question for you. A gentleman by the name of Eric. He said he's a sponsor. Do you have any guidance for return expectations or risk profiles that would make a deal attractive to your group?
Yeah, so we're very, very transparent. We're an open book. You can go to our website and you can pull up our funding services document. We lay everything out from what we offer investors to what we offer sponsors on their deals. We share a lot of our literature and our documentation. So our website's the best place to go, but you can pass out our contact information and feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to help.
Okay. I think we can squeeze in one more. You might have answered it, but the average price of deals you do and the low end of cap rates. Buddy, John, Bill, you can all share in.
Yeah. Bill, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I've been at this for a bit, and I would say that for me to get involved in a deal, Militello Capital is a very similar business model to yours, John, in that we partner with sponsors. And so we do maybe 2 deals a year. The sizes of those opportunities are typically between $30 and $50 million, and the equity checks are, in the teens of millions, and we'll come in for, 3 to 10. And so those are the types of opportunities we're looking at for us.
Makes sense. For us, we love development and new construction. So we typically can come in when a piece of land is raw dirt and we see what it's going to look like at the end. Again, there's a lot of risk on that, but we walk through that process and we're good at it. We're starting to get into opportunity zones. We have a great opportunity zone deal in DC. We're really excited about it. It's 15, 20 minutes from my house, so I get to go anytime I want and check it out. And Buddy brought up a really, really cool strategy. You got to realize in real estate, just like anything, when you have a good investment, you got to jump on it quick, because before you know it, everybody's going to be doing fix and flips. Once HGTV gets a hold of it, everybody's going to be doing it. Mm-hmm. So what you want to do is get into things that are unique and that you understand. And I feel right now opportunity zones are going to be very hot for the next couple of years, as long as things don't change too much. And I love what Buddy mentioned about taking land, developing land, building on land, and then holding it, where you get to take a piece of fruit and watch it ripen all the way down to the point where you pull it off the tree, it's falling off. And it makes so much sense from a wealth standpoint. You're avoiding a lot of capital gains taxes. You're avoiding a lot of the risk there. Mm-hmm. And it makes so much sense. You can go through 4 or 5, you can go through 10 administrations before that thing ends. And it's amazing. Right. And, I talked about it at the high level, cap rates and all that. I'm seeing cap rates on exits right now. You guys may know better than me. I'm seeing 5 to 4.5 being penciled out on the exit. On the entrance, if you can get anything over 5.5 to 6, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I do. I was going to say the majority of what we've done about 300 single family acquisitions in the last 4 years. And they range anywhere from $80,000 to about $190,000 as far as these are single family rental properties. And primarily those are using 20 to 25% down bank financing. Again, those are the catalysts to get somebody believing they can be a real estate investor, to getting the rent checks coming in so that they can then go do other things. But obviously the market has tightened. And so we've.
Oops. Did we lose Buddy?
I think we just got Buddy got hung up a little bit. So, well, listen, Catherine, if you got another question, if not,
no, we'll have Buddy chime in at the table. So thank you, everybody. Don't forget, you can go to localvest.com. You can go to JIDinvestments.com. You can go to whitefeatherinvestments.com. Gentlemen, again, thank you. Bill, fantastic job moderating. All of you have done.
Good job, Bill.
I learned a lot. I should throw my money at you guys. Just gotta take care of me. Go invest.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in the lobby.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Catherine.
We'll talk to you guys.